ideology class with Salamatu. Next, quickly, we'll be moving to training sessions on advocacy and activism, where we'll be understanding the differences, intersections, and strategic uses of advocacy and activism. Our speaker is already on the call, Mr. Emmanuel Nwankwo. So Mr. Emmanuel Nwankwo is a political analyst, scriptwriter, a grant writer, and a development enthusiast, passionate about assisting young people achieve great heights. As a grant writer with Educate, Radiate, Elevate, a US-based non-profit organization, he has helped secure grant funding to support the education of hundreds of young people from low-income backgrounds in US, of Texas, and Illinois, ensuring that they receive access to quality education, thereby improving their potentials for social mobility. He has authored several articles and commentaries on issues such as international geopolitics, peace and security, history and development issues. Emmanuel holds a bachelor degree in political science from University of Nsukka. Ladies and gentlemen, can we celebrate our next speaker, Mr. Emmanuel Nwankwo, as he takes over? You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good evening to everybody. Nice to be in your midst this evening, and I hope that we'll have a very fruitful session this evening. So, as you have already said, my name is Emmanuel Nwankwo. Okay. So, can you please move to the first slide, please? All right. Our topic for today is advocacy versus activism. I'm sure many of us have heard people calling themselves human rights activists and human rights advocates, so that sometimes we don't even know if there is a difference between them or if they are the same thing. So before we start that, I would like to find out what we think. Let me just ask the question briefly. Is there any difference between advocacy and activism in your own knowledge or in your opinion? Let me hear from you. Is there a difference between advocacy or activism, or are they the same thing? What do you think? Okay. Someone's hand is up.
Yeah, Fortune, she's on.
Okay. Okay. Can I speak?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, from my own personal understanding, I think advocacy is more legal and involves more legal frameworks. Why activism is more actionable? It's more of action. It's more of doing. Advocacy is doing too, but I think advocacy is more of right. It follows more processes. Why activity also follows process, but activism is more of action. And in my own opinion, thank you.
Okay. That's very nice. Who else has something to say to join to that? Okay. Nobody for now. Okay,
Yes,
let me hear from you.
good evening, sir.
Please go ahead.
Yes, I want to see advocacy as a formal dialogue, with stakeholders as it relates to a particular subject matter. It's more of a dialogue kind of situation, while activism has to do with deploying, at most times, crude measures, and some of these crude measures are devoid of dialogue. So that's how I see it, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so the rest of us can just put our opinions in the comment section. And also, I would like to know. Okay, speak. Najibullah, please go ahead. Najibullah, let me hear from you. You will be our last answer.
Okay. Good evening. Advocacy actually is like promoting or recommending a cause that influence policies or decision making, while activism they are deliberate actions taken by an individual or group of individuals in order to bring about social change or social, political, economic change.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. So at the end of the
Can I
class,
add
we'll find
something?
out briefly, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, and you'll be our last speaker, please, so we can start.
The rest of us should drop
Okay, I think both
viewpoint
activism
to
and advocacy aim to bring about positive change, and it both
Okay.
involves promoting a particular issue or cause. But then I think the difference is in the approach.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's move on, please. First slide. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. So today we are going to find out what are advocacy and activism. What do they mean? And now we are going to find out why it is even important to know the difference between them. And how do the both of them work together to bring about social change? Please, let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, so at the end of this class, we will be able to understand the differences between advocacy and activism in terms of their goals, their methods, and impact. Each one of them has their own different methods of achieving what they want. So today we are going to find that out. We're also going to find out how the both of them can be used together to achieve social change. We're also going to find out real-world examples. We are going to discuss examples of where both of them have been used and how it turned out. We're also going to discuss ways that we can combine the both of them to achieve what we want. Also, we are going to check out, we're going to look at the appropriate use of each approach and what to align with organization and personal objectives. So we are going to find out when to use advocacy and when to use activism. Please go to the next slide. Okay, so what is advocacy? Advocacy is the act of supporting a cause or policy. It works within systems and institutions, and it involves lobbying, policy recommendations, legal work, and education. An advocate is someone who identifies a problem in society and joins a movement or starts a movement that is aimed at bringing about a solution. We have many of such movements. For example, I heard someone in the last class talking about the apartheid movement in South Africa. Yes, it's true. There was a time in South Africa when black people were considered lower than white people. Black people were not allowed to ride on the same trains with white people. They could not use the same facilities. They could not drink water at the same taps, in fact, with white people. It took some people to stand up and start what we call the anti-apartheid movement, which was an advocacy group that reached out to other groups all over the world to combine hands together and bring about a solution. It works within systems and institutions. Yes, the aim of an advocate is to change the system. It's not about just going to maybe remove somebody from power. No, we want to change the system completely. We want to look at those laws, those systems of government that are holding our people down, that are stopping us from achieving what we want. Those are the things that we want to change. So an advocate aims at removing the laws, the negative institutions that are holding us back so we can move forward. It involves lobbying. Who can tell us what lobbying is exactly? Just give us, what do you think lobbying means? We hear about the laws. Let me go and lobby this guy. This guy is lobbying me. What does lobbying mean exactly? Raise up your hand if you want to answer.
Follow up.
Yes, Fortune, please let me hear from you.
Okay, lobbying is all about discussing whereby this party brings their own opinion and the party wanting something also brings their own demands, and the two parties talk about the best for each other, and they reach an equilibrium for which favors each party that is involved in the lobbying.
Does it mean it's the same with negotiation?
Um, it's not the same in my opinion, in my understanding. It's not the same with negotiation. Negotiation
Okay.
involves deals, while lobbying involves things that will be for betterment of a particular group of people and
Okay.
other
Let me hear from
things.
someone else, please. That was very nice. Let me hear from someone else. Who else wants to weigh in?
Okay, I
Okay.
want to.
Okay,
I
I'm
would say
hearing.
lobbying has to do with trying to influence others to agree with
O-
what you're advocating for. Trying to
Okay, okay.
influence other people to your own opinion.
There is one important thing you said there, influence. When it comes to lobbying, we talk about persuasion, convincing someone to accept your point of view. You understand? If I am to go to, let's say, a senator and I tell him, oh, senator, we want a law that will help us to achieve this goal. And the senator will say, why do you want this law? I will sit down and I will discuss with him. I will let him know why we should, introduce this bill into the House. That is what lobbying means. Now, I'm sure most of us heard about the not too young to run bill. How many of us heard about it? The
Yeah.
not too young to run.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So briefly, during the Buhari administration, there was a group that began to talk about the fact that the Nigerian constitution has set a high age limit for those who want to contest for president. For example, you have to be 40 years old, I think, and above before you can contest for presidency. And they said, no, it's too high. We want young people who are maybe in their 20s or 30s. We see it in the Western world to also be able to contest for those positions. And they were able to lobby their way to get what they wanted. That's what an advocate does. An advocate recommends policies to the government. An advocate can write letters, take it to the House of Assembly, take it to your representative. And by the way, how many of us even know the names of people representing us in the Senate or House of Reps? Talk more of their email addresses. So that's something that we need to look. We also need to look at, because this is a democracy. The only way we can be able to achieve institutional changes is if we can be able to reach out to these people to let them know that this is what you want. Because change will not just happen overnight. We need to be able to reach out to them, recommend policies. Here in PowerShift Africa, we are going to be discussing a lot. We are going to be, generating a lot of positive ideas. But then we need to be able to move these ideas to those who can actually make the laws to implement them. So that's what an advocate does. An advocate is a policy recommender. And then there's also legal work also. How many of us know that you can sue the police in Nigeria? Let me start from there. How many of us know that the police can be sued in court in Nigeria? Yes, it's possible. An advocate does that. You can sue the police, you can sue every arm of government, basically, that infringes upon your rights. You can take them to court. Now, for example, there is something that happened in 1973 in the United States. Let me tell us a little story. A young woman got pregnant, a 21-year-old woman got pregnant, and she wanted to abort it. Now, in the United States in those days, abortion was illegal. So what did the woman do? She took the government to court. She told the government, what rights do you have to tell me that I cannot determine what goes on in my own body? And at the end of the day, the case went all the way to the Supreme Court and she won. You can read about the Roe versus Wade judgment in 1973. She won. And that was how abortion was made legal in the United States. Now, I am not saying that we should go and fight for abortion rights specifically, but there are other issues around us that we can take up. For example, many people are complaining about the idea of police collecting money on the road. You can take the police to court. Give it enough publicity on social media and let people know about it. That is what an advocate does. Now, also there is also education, which is what we are doing here. As we are speaking to one another, we are exchanging ideas. We are learning things that we did not know before. That is what an advocate does. We are sharpening our ability to fight for our country. We are sharpening our ability to fight against those negative things in our society that are holding us back. That is also what an advocate does. Now, an advocate looks at long-term strategic engagements. He's not just trying to get his results today. No. An advocate can start fighting for a cause today and get the results in the next 20 years or 30 years. He doesn't mind as far as he gets what he wants at the end of the day. For example, in South Africa, the issue of apartheid, they started fighting against it in the 1940s. In the 1940s, the rise of Nelson Mandela and others, they began to fight against it in the 1940s. They did not get it until 1991. Now you can imagine how many years has passed From the 1940s till 1991, you have spent it advocating, reaching out to international partners, talking about the racism of the government in South Africa. You understand? It took them more than how many years? Several decades for them to finally get it. That is what an advocate does. He thinks far. He looks at strategic engagements far. You know, that's another aspect of advocacy. Now, let us look at who an activist is now. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Let's go to the next slide. Exactly. Now, activism is the effort to bring about social or political change, often through direct action. Now, remember, when we talked about advocacy, we said that an advocate is someone who patiently engages with those in charge to seek to bring about a change. But an activist, on the other hand, wants change immediately. An activist is somebody who sees a burning need in society and says, no, we cannot wait for long, the way Nelson Mandela and others waited to bring about a change in South Africa. No, we want change today. We are going to protest, we are going to block the streets, and we are going to get what we want. So he carries it out through public demonstrations, protests, and campaigns. How many of us have heard about the story of Rosa Parks? How many of us know about Rosa Parks? Can you just raise your hand? Rosa Parks, have you heard the name before? Okay. Now, Rosa Parks was a Black American woman in the 1960s. There was a policy that they had then that when a white person comes into a bus in America, all the Black people will go to the back of the bus so that the white people can sit in front. So one particular day, Rosa Parks said no. She refused to stand up from her bus, from her seat. The white man came in and said, stand up as usual, go to the back. She refused and she was arrested. But guess what? From the publicity that was generated from that case, the Black people were able to start protests, and that was how they were able to bring a change to that situation. That was how they were able to turn the situation around. So that is who an activist is. But how many of us have heard about Greta Thunberg? Greta Thunberg, have you heard about her? Okay. She's a 15, at the age of 15, one day she went to their parliament in Sweden. She's from Sweden. So she had heard about the issue of climate change, how companies are emitting greenhouse gases into the atmosphere and damaging the atmosphere. And yet nothing was being done. So at some point she got fed up. She left school at the age of 15, went in front of the House of Senate and sat down and said that she will stop going to school until the parliament does something about it. That's what an activist is. She had to disrupt, they had to stop what they were doing in parliament to attend to her. And that was how Sweden was able to bring about legislation to protect the climate. That is what an activist is. So an activist is not ready to wait for long. We also heard about the NSAS protest. That was a good example of activism, because this is not something that can wait for several years. They had to fight for it to bring about a change to it immediately. Now, it can be either spontaneous or organized, which means that sometimes a protest may not even be something that was planned. Like, we heard about the issue of George Floyd. I don't know how many of us followed it. George Floyd, how many of us know about the issue? Who was killed in the US? How many of us can talk about it? Raise your hand. Just raise your hand if you can talk about it, please. Okay. Please speak. Edith.
All right. George Floyd was a Black man that was put under harsh conditions. He was humiliated by a white police officer who put his knee on his neck for about, I think, 5 minutes thereabout, until this man died and all of that. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes. So that is a good example. And what happened after that? What happened after that?
All right. There was a campaign. There was protests, along crisscrossing the length and breadth of America. Black people were campaigning, protesting that Black Lives Matters.
Exactly. That was the origin of the Black Lives Matter hashtag. And it wasn't just in the US. Even here, okay, Anoji, please speak. You want to talk about the Black Lives Matter issue? Anoji? Okay, let's go ahead, please. So it was spontaneous in the sense that nobody planned to protest about Black Lives Matter immediately. But due to what happened, people immediately picked up on it and were able to fight about the issue and raise public knowledge about it. Just recently in Nigeria, a young boy was shot inside his father's car. How many of us said about it? A young boy was shot inside his father's car in the name of the police were pursuing so-called Yahoo boys or whatever, and they opened fire on the car and ended up killing the young boy. I think he was going for a WIAC exam or something. Now, that is something that could have started a protest against police brutality in Nigeria if we had the right level of awareness, which is why what we are doing here is important. We need to come to a level where when such things happen, immediately we can be able to start a protest about it immediately without wasting time. To start public awareness, start a movement to bring about a change, an end to such a situation. That is why activism can be spontaneous. Spontaneous means you don't even need to plan it. It can just start happening at any time, or it can be organized. Here in PowerSheet, we can agree that, okay, this issue, we are tired of it. We can organize ourselves and go on the streets, if possible, if we need to. That means that activism can also be organized. So please, next slide, please. Elders, can you turn off your microphone, please? So the key differences between advocacy and activism is this. Now, advocacy has a different approach than activism. Advocacy aims at changing the system entirely. It doesn't want to just go and get, like during the NSAS protest, they said, okay, now we are going to determine that the policemen will have to pass through a mental health checkup before they get employed, and some other minor issues. No, an advocate says he wants a complete change. He wants the SARS group to be banned completely and no other group brought in its place. He wants special laws to be made to protect people from police brutality. That is what an activist says. That's what an advocate says, sorry. He wants a systemic change, but the activist aims at direct engagement. Now, the tone is different from advocacy to activism. It's not the same. The tone of an advocate is negotiated. He wants to sit down and talk about it. Let us see where we can reach, common ground. Like I said before, lobbying is involved in advocacy. You want to go and meet the lawmakers and tell them, this is what you want. Let us sit down and talk about it. You understand? So that is what an advocate does. But an activist, on the other hand, is confrontational. He's not prepared to negotiate with anybody. He wants to get what he wants. That's an activist for you. Now, the method that they use is different also. An advocate aims at changing policy. He can use legal action, as we said before. You can go to court to challenge the institutions of government that are not doing well. You can also use lobbying. While an activist can use protest, he can use strike, he can use social media, as you will see in the next slide. Then, the engagement for an advocate is often behind the scenes. You won't really see advocates most of the time marching on the streets. They mostly go and engage with those in charge in their offices, and that's how they bring about change. While the activists, on the other hand, you can see them everywhere. They march on the streets, they go and raise public awareness to bring about change. Let's go to the next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So, in as much as there are differences between them, there are also similarities. The similarity is what? Both of them want to get social or political change. They have identified the problem in society and they want to change it. That is where both of them are the same. Now, they are driven by passion and commitment. You cannot be an activist or an advocate if you are not passionate. For example, during the NSAS protest, we saw how people were being tear gassed, right? People were being beaten by the police and everything. And upon that, they still kept on coming out. In fact, it seems the more they were even attacked, the more they were determined to keep on protesting. That is the mindset of an activist. It's also the mindset of an advocate also. Now, both require strategy, organization, and persistence. Strategy in the sense that you need to be strategic about it. You need to have plans in place. You understand? You need to have plans in place. Like an advocate, I told you, might need to reach out to other organizations to come together and come with common fronts to achieve what they want. And also persistence. You may not get what you want immediately. It might take you time. But at the end of the day, the important thing is that you reach your goal. You stay persistent. So next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, we will discuss some real-world examples of where these things have been done. Now, many of us know about the Bring Back Our Girls issue. Who can talk about the bit for us? What exactly led to the Bring Back Our Girls campaign? Who can talk about the bit? Just raise your hand if you want to contribute. We need someone else. Please, that you have spoken a lot. Somebody else should speak. The Bring Back Our Benson Mercy, please. Let me hear from you.
Okay, good evening again.
Good evening to you.
That's Bring Back Our Girls campaign started when our girls, the Chibok girls were kidnapped. So it was a concern for every Nigerian, and we had to, make that campaign had to go into place. And I'm sure that in as much as we did not see the results immediately, but we actually saw results at the end of the day. Thank you.
Let me hear from Najibullah. Najibullah, please let's hear from you. Okay.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening to you.
Yeah, she started Bring Back Our Girls campaign. It happened when the girls were abducted from secondary school in Chibok around 2014, April, if I can remember, where there was a demand for the safe return of the girls. Like pressure was put onto a Nigerian government, and we have even international bodies that come in for the girls to be returned safely.
Very good. Now, the second, who can see the second hashtag? Justice for OR. Who remembers that? The case of a girl who was raped and killed in a church.
Yes, sir. I remember that. A girl that was raped and killed in a church in Benin.
Who remembers that case?
Yes.
Yes, it happened.
In Benin.
And it caused so much alarm that so many people started uproar that other people began to also raise their own issues where similar things have also happened to get to them. You see, so that's the power of activism. Once you start talking about something, everybody immediately comes out and says, I have also experienced this thing. It took one person to come out and start saying, oh, SARS has taken my money, they have imprisoned me falsely, they have beaten me up. Somebody else come out and say, oh, the same thing also happened to me. Before you know it, we have a whole group talking about it. That is how activism works. There is also the NSAS protest, which Musa, please mute your mic, please. So there's also the NSAS protest, which everybody knows about, against police brutality. The No Means No movement was against sexual harassment, which was very rampant. Understand? Now, the Not Too Young to Learn bill is a very good example of advocacy that we need to talk about. I asked before whether anybody knows about this, and I don't think anybody talked about it. But the fact, please mute your mics, please.
Yes, sir, please mute.
But the fact, all right. So the fact is that in 2018 or in 2016, a particular group known as Yaga Africa began to raise awareness about the fact that the constitution of our country has made it almost impossible for young people to get into power, because for you to be president, you need to be up to at least 40 years. For you to be governor, you need to be 35 years. For you to be a member of the House of Senate, you need to be 30 years at least. Now, what that means is that young people essentially cannot even enter there. Not to talk of the high cost of the nomination forms for the main parties, for the major parties. So it took a policy group, a pressure group, to begin to meet with the members of the House of Reps and Senate to bring them over, to convince them of why they need to bring this thing down. And eventually some of them agreed, including the likes of Tony Nwankwo in the House of Representatives and Abdulaziz Nyako in the Senate. So they introduced this to the House of Senate and House of Reps. At first, some senators disagreed with it, but again, the advocates went on social media and they shamed those senators who were against it. So this is the power of social media. When these people, because these politicians, there is nothing that they are afraid of as much as losing their popularity. And one way you can make them to lose their popularity is by launching a sustained social media campaign against them. So whenever they are standing against advocacy issues like this, the best thing to do is to shame them on social media. And that is what happened in the case of the Not Too Young to Run Bill. And before you know it, those senators that were against it, they turned around to support it. At the end of the day, it was passed. In fact, the advocates even had to go and meet the vice president then, Emmanuel. And at the end of the day, it was passed. So that is the power of advocacy. Please, next slide, please. Let's go to the next slide, please. Thank you.
Yes,
so
sir.
now,
Your time is already. You can start and then now.
Okay, so we need to know when to use advocacy and activism. We use advocacy when change is possible through dialogue, and we use activism to mobilize public attention, or when there is no ability for the system to accept change, or we can combine the both of them to get the impact that we desire. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we have our reflection questions. So the first question is, how have you observed advocacy or activism in your community or workplace, and what was the impact? Let's answer this briefly, quick. So has anybody observed any? Okay, let me hear from someone, please. Shem, can I hear from someone? Fortune, let me hear from you.
Okay.
Okay, let me hear.
So
Go ahead.
okay, I've observed advocacy as a student,
Okay,
as a student who was kind of forming a movement, or should I call myself ourselves a pressure group as at then, but I didn't know what I
okay,
was doing was advocacy.
okay.
I hear issues from students, I gather information, I listen to their issues, I go to the
Were you
students
able to
affairs.
were you able to achieve any results?
Yeah, I was achieving results. All the letters I wrote, I even had to buy like pack of a particular level of paper to write paper almost all the to write letters almost all
Wow,
the time. Yeah,
wow, that's
so
wonderful.
I wrote letters, put policy recommendations, things I thought should be done.
Okay,
I
let's hear
send
from
it to
someone
the
because of our time, please.
okay.
Let's hear from someone else. Thank you very much for your input. Oluwadamilola, please. I think I
Okay.
saw your hands.
Good evening. Let me
Yes,
say my own
good
very quickly,
evening.
please.
But you didn't call you
Okay, just go
now.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. It's just because of our time.
Okay,
Don't be angry,
so
please.
yes, I have been involved in advocacy. As a matter of fact, in my 200 level in school, we
Okay,
had this lecturer who was very interested in sex for grades. It has been
okay,
happening before I came into school. So
okay.
unfortunately for him, I was supposed to be one of his victims. Then
Wow.
he came, and then what I now did then was I now spoke to a senior colleague. What she now told me was that it's Nasa Loze liver na in pattern be that. So it sent a like it's should I use the word? It just like so as if somebody lit up something in my head. So I approached him one day. I told him that this course is a GNS course, and I don't think I can never have issues with writing comprehensions or writing letters and all of that. GNS is like English language that we do in secondary school. That as a matter
Okay,
of fact, if
so
I failed this course, he was going to present my script before Senate. And like joke, that did not like I did not fail that course. But
can we
I now
please
have
give her a round of applause, please?
yes, it now repeated itself again in my final year, but not to me. But then I was already a chief judge in school, and I took it up. It became a protest. Like
Okay,
today, he has left my school. Like he has been suspended, and he left
that's
my
wonderful.
school.
That's
So I am
wonderful.
very proud
That's
of myself.
wonderful.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. So now let's ask another question for the sake of our time. Okay,
My own
let me
case
hear from you,
is
please.
my own case is a little different. There was this
Okay,
it was like an health system strengthening movement. There's this particular
okay.
primary health care center in one rural part of Oyo State where they did not have good infrastructure. They just put them in one place. Whereas there is a primary health care structure, but some people were using
Wow.
it for something else. So we have to pay advocacy to the community leaders, the king of that area, the
Okay.
honorables in that local government as well. We paid several advocacies, made them see reason why the PHC should have its own structure and, of course, good infrastructure. And I
Did
think
you
in
succeed?
about 3
Did you
months,
succeed?
Yeah,
Okay.
it succeeded. In fact, there was no water. The honorable donated
Wow.
water, like
Please, let's give her
bulb,
a round of
even
applause,
donated
please. She
generator
succeeded.
and all of that. Yeah, thank you.
Nice, nice, nice. Okay, okay. Let's hear from somebody I've not heard from before. Blessing Emmanuel, please. I've not heard from you before. Blessing Emmanuel, go ahead.
All right. Mine happened here in Abuja in a rural community. They have issue. They were not having water. They were getting water from the river. So they had to advocate. They had to get the attention of the AMA chairman. He came over, and then the women went to the stream to fetch the water. They brought it to him. This is the water we are drinking, and we don't have light. And it was just like a joke. Within few months, water was available and then light in that community.
Wow,
So I guess this is also
wow, wow,
what an
wow.
impact
I'm
of
very happy to hear from
advocacy.
all of you actually. It shows that these things work. We're not just talking theory, it can work. All we need is to come together. Yes. So for let me ask this question now. I think for the sake of our time, this will be my final question. What strategy
Good
would be the best? Amina,
evening, Mr. Emmanuel.
good
I'm
evening to
so
you.
sorry. I don't
Good.
really want to cut this session short, but we are running out of time. Thank you
Okay,
so much.
okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Sir Emmanuel. Can we celebrate him for a powerful session? Yeah, it was really inspiring. Advocacy and activism. Thank you so much, sir. So if you have any other contributions or questions, we can drop it down on our WhatsApp group. So it will be attended to. I'd like to invite Amina for announcement.
Okay, thank you so much for the invitation, but I have to record. Mr. Emmanuel have not round up his session, like he didn't summarize. So
Okay.
I'll just give you like 1 minute to summarize, Mr. Emmanuel.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So now that we know the difference and we know the meanings of advocacy and activism, it is now left for us to decide which one is best suited to our environment. Now, we all know that in Nigeria, if we say we should go the route of advocacy, we know it will be difficult for us to achieve whatever we want. Why? Because it's difficult for us to even get things. In fact, okay, let's say we want to go to our senators now. How will we even get to their houses? When we get to their gates, we'll meet their security, we'll meet all of that. So it's left for you to decide which one is best suited for you in where you are. Some of us have told us that they use advocacy and it's worked for them. Some have used activism and it's worked for them. So let us decide in our own environment which one works for us and which one are we going to use. Thank you very much. So that's the
Thank
end
you,
of
sir.
the.
Thank you. Let's continue to celebrate him. Thank you so much, sir. Yes, ma'am. Amina, you can continue.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Lama to Mr. Emmanuel. We really appreciate those powerful sessions. Thank you so much.